Have you ever been told that the color of your skin is too dark? Have you ever been told that you are too fat? Have you ever been told you're so thin you look anorexic? Have you ever been told that you're so effeminate that you don't fit in? Ladies and gentlemen, these are the kind of questions I faced while growing up. It's a really sad place to be in when you are being told such things. And then comes another question. Are you diabetic? It disheartened me for the longest time while I was growing up to see my mother, who was a type 2 diabetic as well. Anyway, let's run through the story of Kedia and A Diabetic Chef. I was 15 years old and I was in school, bullied and troubled by the other kids in my classroom. It was so difficult to fit in with the conforming roles that I had to play on a regular basis. I did cry to myself every day before I went home, and that one godforsaken day I did cry too, but to myself because I didn't want to bother my mother. My mother had her own things to worry about, and then this is what I looked like then. So, when I went home crying that day, my Masi had come home. My Masi is extremely dramatic. To be very honest, she's like just another agony aunt, just that she's a nice person. So my Masi came home and she told me, बेटा मेरी जांघें दुख रही है, बेटा मेरा गला सूख रहा है, बेटा मेरे हाथ दुख रहे हैं. So then I told her, कोई नहीं मासी जी, sugar check कर लेते हैं, we'll check your blood sugar levels. Then I took out this machine from my house called a glucometer, which is a device used to check your blood sugar levels. With a prick of a finger, you can know what your blood sugar levels are at that point of time. I don't know why that day I decided to prick my own finger before I pricked hers, and I was like, चलो देख लेते हैं यार क्या जाता है, let's check it. I checked my blood sugar levels that day, and my blood sugar levels were 197. It was alarming. My Masi was upset. So was I. We didn't know what to do. She started crying and she was upset, and she said she needs to talk to my mother about it, and we did. I went from one doctor to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other, and the other. I ended up going to 9 different doctors specializing in diabetes and nutrition. Each of them, except for the last one, told me things I could not eat because I had a health condition. None of them told me it was a disease because it's really not. It's a lifestyle disorder. So the final doctor told me things I could actually eat. I took it back home, I did my homework. I was like, chalo theek hai yaar, it's not that bad a picture. My mommy is also diabetic since I was probably like in the second grade. It's fine. So I did my homework, and as someone who loved to be in the kitchen, a boy from a Marwari family loving to cook in the kitchen, was a very new concept for my family as well, but still, they didn't stop me from what I was doing. I used to bake pies, tarts, pastries, cupcakes, pastas, Asian food. I used to cook Mexican food back in the day. And then came this one day of a friend's birthday. Birthdays are really special for everybody. It was special for me because not a lot of people invited me for their birthdays. For this special one, I decided to make her a cake. I baked her a sugarless, diet and diabetic friendly cake, which I didn't tell anybody about. Everyone thought regular cake hai, baker Kedia aa gaya. And I said, cool, let's do it. I took the cake to her house and everyone cut the cake. They ate it and finished it in 5 minutes. It was finger licking good. They said they loved the cake and I should reach out to more people when I told them that it's a diabetic friendly cake. Which is when something struck me. That every year in India, there are about 1 million diabetic and pre-diabetics who are detected. It's an alarming number considering the fact that India ranks number 1 in the world for the number of diabetics. It's very scary to be there. However, I went back to my doctors to ask them what I could eat, right? So one of my doctors told me you should consume stevia. It's a plant, which is a substitute for sugar. It's an artificial sweetener, but it's naturally extracted, so you can add it to whatever you want to consume. So I started experimenting with stevia, baking stuff, cooking stuff, making beverages, and I started my blog called A Diabetic Chef. I went to university, and at university I got a lot of recognition. I won almost every startup competition that I went for, and A Diabetic Chef was going big. I was invited a lot of colleges and schools and a lot of places where I met very beautiful people. And then I got introduced to the idea, and I had a little bit of it, of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. You must be wondering, what is this boy talking about? What is type 1 and type 2? Let me make it simpler for you. Imagine your blood cells being a lock and your insulin being a key. For type 1 diabetes, that key does not exist. It is absent. In type 2 diabetes, that key is half broken, or it can be mended, but it does not function as well. Which is why type 1 diabetics are insulin dependent, which means they need an external source of insulin. And type 2 diabetics, like me, require some form of medication, and in my case it was metformin, which works beautifully. I've been on metformin for 7 years because I listen to my doctors. Another state of fact that you need to note down is you should always listen to your doctors and not the agony aunts. You know what happened once? I was outside with my family somewhere. This lady comes to me. I was like, hello auntie, कैसे हो? बेटा मिठाई खाओगे? I said, no, thanks. मुझे diabetes है. Oh रे बेटा, तुम्हें diabetes है. I'm so sorry, I offer. I felt bad because she did that, and I was like, it's okay. She's like, तुमने काला जामुन खाया है? It's very good for diabetes. I was like, thank you, Dr. Auntie. And I walked out. The other day, I met this girl, and she told me about her story. She had type 2 diabetes, and she used to stay away from her house. She was in the hostel, and she didn't take her medicines for a year and a half. Her HbA1c, which is a 3-month blood sugar average, shot up to 10.1. The good level of HbA1c for any diabetic is between 4.6 and 5.4. She was in a lot of danger, which caused complications of diabetes for her. She developed cholesterol, thyroid, and other health issues. For the basic reason of stigma that was attached to having medicines in front of her roommates because she didn't want to tell them that she was diabetic. She was so scared to tell people around her that she was having a health condition that she skipped her medicines and fell more sick. Another story of a girl that I read and I was told about, she was a type 1 diabetic girl in her school. That poor little girl had a sugar high. Her sugar was so high that day that she wanted to run to the bathroom to take her insulin pen and put it on her stomach and take that shot because she did not tell her teachers, her principal, or her friends about her diabetes, her condition. Her parents thought that it would be too judgmental for the kids to survive in such conditions, but they didn't know what the consequences would be. She got up in her geography class and wanted to run out of her classroom, but little did she know that after 3 steps, she fell on her face and she passed out. She slipped into a diabetic coma. She was brought to the infirmary. They didn't know what to do with her because they didn't know of her condition. She was rushed to the hospital and announced dead on the spot. That poor girl of 14 years of age lost her life to diabetes for stigmas that she lived. Now I tell you, on the brighter side of things, 3 parts or 3 factors that contribute to diabetes. A, exercise. B, food. And 3, the favorite thing that the millennials and their parents take up these days. It's called stress. So exercise does not necessarily entail going to the gym and lifting 150 kg deadlifts. It does not mean going for jogs for 10 kilometers and 15 kilometers. It can mean taking up the flight of stairs 5 times. It can mean dancing. I love to dance. When I was that fat kid and to lose weight, I did dance, and that was my form of exercise. When people tell me things about food, it's very funny when they come to me, they're like, oh my god, bro, you have diabetes. You can't have ice cream? I'm like, no, I can have ice cream. There are a lot of available options for diabetics for ice cream as well, by the way. There are diabetic-friendly desserts available in the market as well, and I'm one of those people who actually make those desserts for diabetics. Third comes stress. One must not take stress about things that are not necessary. I know given the lifestyle of most people today, stress is something that is inevitable, but it can be reduced by doing other things which are dependent on the food and the exercise bit of it. Further on, I'd like to tell you that diabetes and thyroid and other similar problems come to kids when they are born. It's called the juvenile stage. When they are between the age of 0 and 5 and they are born with such conditions, It can be controlled with time, and it can be nascently dealt with. When an individual has diabetes, when a child has diabetes, or a person in your office has diabetes, I implore all of you, each one of you, not to treat them differently because they suffer from that health condition. I would request you to treat them the same way you would have treated them with a hello and a greeting without knowing about their health condition. The stigma that we live in with the society and given time, it is not something anybody deserves. People fall sick, they lose their lives because they are too scared to talk about it. I want you all to take this one message back with you, that one must not treat someone differently because of their health condition. And I'd like to strongly conclude with one statement. I am diabetic, proud, and I do not want to be treated differently. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.